What up, YouTube? I am your host, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, back in here with yet one more video. Guys, listen, I got this video right here sent to me. I don't even know the amount of times, and it's hit my backlog, and I just haven't gotten around to it, but I want to give it to you guys today. Relatively recent video, though. It was uploaded March 20th to a TEDx channel. And I want to go over it. It's amassed close to 3 million views. It comes from Marilyn York, who is a men's rights divorce attorney. Title of the video, What Representing Men in Divorce Taught Me About Fatherhood. For folks who are new to the channel and don't know much about my history, do understand this is that I was raised by a single father, so I think that the way that I feel about this might come across as potentially biased, so we'll start right there. But one of the goals of the channel is coming across as objective and balanced as possible. So I want to be able to get into this conversation the best way that me and this channel, you'll see down in the comment box, we know how. I think that this is a potentially really critical conversation, and I'm happy that a divorce lawyer is kicking off this conversation, okay? Without further ado.
I'm a divorce attorney. I've been practicing for over 20 years. I began in Los Angeles, but I've owned my firm in Nevada since 2001. My firm has a particular subspecialty, men's rights. My 9 female employees and I specifically represent men in divorce and custody battles. And guess who runs the business end of my law firm? My father. In my practice, we've represented over 2,000 men, 650 of whom are fathers. My expertise not only comes from my career, but just as much from my personal life. I'm a mother. My children are 23, 15, 12, and barely 3. So, what has 20 years of representing men in family law while living my own reality show as a wife, mother, and daughter taught me about fatherhood? Allow me, if you will, to start with the second thing I learned about fatherhood. Men parent differently than women, big surprise. But their influence is crucial in the development of their children. When getting my father clients ready for court, I prepare them for this kind of interrogation. Who's your children's doctor or dentist? What's the name of your school principal or even their teacher? What grades did they get on their last report card? 9 times out of 10, they miss the majority of these questions. Seriously, does this mean they don't care or love their children as much? I bet it makes you wonder. But please hold your judgment. Here are the questions that my father clients can easily answer. If your son could be a superhero, what would his power be? What kind of monsters do your kids fear? How high does your daughter feel comfortable flying in a swing? What makes your son feel defeated? Yet, in my experience cross-examining hundreds of mothers in family court, these are the harder questions for them.
Real quick, I wanted to comment on that real quick. I think that that is super interesting, the way that she asked those questions to establish the different dynamic of how a father is going to interact with a child and how a mother may interact with a child. It's not like she's about to explain it right here, but I just also wanted to comment that I think that she's 100% right. My pops probably didn't know my teachers' names, the principals, what I got on a test. Well, actually, he knew what I probably got on a test, but for sure, he would know all the answers to what she asked, okay? Like, what would his superpower be? Like, he definitely would know those things. You understand? My ears are listening. Let's get back in there.
Most of us know motherhood brings with it a sixth sense and an unspoken bond to our children. But what about fathers? Even fathers feel insecure about this reality. After representing 650 fathers, I can count on one hand those that felt secure in their instinctive role and significance to their children. What's interesting is my anecdotal legal experience suggests otherwise. In 20 years of practice, I've had over 100 men take a paternity test, like Jerry Springer. Seriously, do you know how many were wrong in predicting their biological relation to the child? 2. This shocked me and taught me my third lesson. Fathers, too, have a genetic bond and instinct about their children from infancy. Forget where you are for a moment, seriously, and close your eyes. I'd like to ask you to feel. Think about your childhood. Picture your father, his smiling eyes, his strong hands. Hear his deep voice. What did you love about your dad? Did he throw you high into the air? Teach you to ride a bike? Carry you home when you got hurt? Push you when you tried to give up? What did it feel like to have a daddy? Secure, fun, challenging. Now, go back in your memories and erase your father from every scene. This is what the other 40% of people's childhoods look like. Eye-opening, isn't it? Nearly 2 of every 5 children in America are growing up without their fathers, or 17 million, according to the 2016 census. Other sources estimate as many as 30 million. In 2011, I joined the board for a local charity called Nevada Youth Empowerment Project, or NYEP. NYEP is a housing program for homeless girls ages 18 to 24. As board president of this small charity, I've been closely involved and gotten to know the girls and their tragic stories over the years. Hundreds of otherwise homeless girls have come through our program. Their backgrounds and what they have endured would haunt you. Do you know the one thing all of these girls have in common?
Fatherless homes?
They all come from fatherless homes. Sadly, these girls aren't the exception. They're the rule. My 4th lesson about fatherhood came from the data. According to the Center for Disease Control, children from fatherless homes account for 90% of all homeless and runaway kids, 71% of high school dropouts, and 63% of youth suicides. While you listen to me speak, you have to be wondering, what makes fathers so crucial? Honestly, the answer is complex and better explored by psychologists. What I can tell you is that the data unequivocally tells us fathers are vital, and yet laws and society undervalue their importance, making it harder for them to be in their children's lives. Even fathers underrate their own value. I know this data upsets a lot of mothers, me included. But advocating for fathers isn't about diminishing mothers. While children deserve both parents whenever possible, this crisis is specific to fathers.
Hold up, no, let me touch on that right there. Bars, okay? Advocating for one does not mean diminishing another. The strength of that sentence, let's not just skip past that, okay? Because there's a lot of different situations. And listen, we're going through tumultuous times right here. Advocating for Black Lives Matter does not diminish that all lives matter. That's not what it means. That's not what we're trying to do. There's no superiority that's being advocated for. It's identification of a specific problem that a lot of people have experienced throughout their lives, okay?
While children deserve both parents whenever possible, this crisis is specific to fathers. The occurrence of fatherlessness is epidemic. The effects are catastrophic, and the causes are male gender specific. Nearly 30 years ago, leading child psychologist Michael Lamb reminded us, fathers are the forgotten contributors to child development. Yet, researchers have found that children with involved fathers have stronger cognitive and motor skills, elevated physical and mental health, become better problem solvers, and are more confident, curious, and empathetic. Sadly, we've had this data for 30 years. And fatherlessness has only continued to rise during this time. The main contributors to fatherlessness are divorce and out-of-wedlock births. Every 13 seconds, someone in America gets divorced. That equates to almost 2.5 million divorces a year. Lucky me. Currently, more than 40%, or 1.5 million babies, are born out of wedlock each year in the US. And this brings me back to the first and most significant thing that my career has taught me about fatherhood. Family court is one of the critical places where fathers are disadvantaged, and this hurts kids. Historically, this maternal preference was solidified in the tender years doctrine, which mandated custody of children under age 4 be awarded to mothers. This doctrine was in use until the 80s. As the laws progressed, visitation for fathers improved, but it took a lot of years before the law was finally gender equal. In fact, it wasn't until 2017 that Nevada finally adopted a presumption for joint physical custody. When I began my practice, and until 10 years ago, the best my father clients could expect was every other weekend visitation and maybe a dinner on the off week. While significant legal progress has been made, this long-standing bias against fathers still occurs in the enforcement of custody orders, in child support rulings, and it exists in paternity laws.
I wanted to comment on this as well. There's a lot of people that are in the idea of, just because a law is passed, then it's over. Then there's nothing else to fight for. But I think that biases exist. I think that culture will prevail. I think that if there's not a fundamental shift to ensure equality of whatever that change was, people will be people. And and sometimes people being people in their minds is not necessarily a negative thing.
All the while, the number of kids growing up without dads continues to rise. Between 1960 and 2016, the percentage of children growing up with just mothers nearly tripled, from 8 to 23%. Paternity laws desperately need more reform to protect the 40% of children born out of wedlock each year in the U.S. Right now, once custody has been ordered, it's illegal to remove a child from their father.
And let me also say a quick point, because I think like an argument here can be said that, well, the numbers are like that because men don't want the children. And my answer to that is, well, show me the data that that is true, okay? I think when a lot of people say that, it's based off of anecdotal experiences and hearsay most of the time, okay? Show me the data that was to say that at the point of a divorce proceeding, that the man is choosing not to get custody. Show me the data that at the point of a child being birthed, that the man chooses not to get some form of custody if they are not married. Show it to me. Show it to me. Because I know on this channel right here, and I know I'm going from anecdotal experiences and I don't like to do that, all of the dudes that have spoken up in here have talked about the difficulty that they have to go through in order to be seen as equal to the woman during the child court proceedings. Let's move on.
Usually a felony, but it's perfectly legal in all 50 states for a woman to conceal her pregnancy, leave the father's name off the birth certificate, and never tell him he is a child, ever. How is this not kidnapping? Just as horrible, a woman can knowingly list the wrong father on a child's birth certificate, deceive him, and a short while later, in many states, the wrong man becomes that child's legal father forever. He's obligated to a child that isn't his, and that child just lost their real father with little to no recourse. This is a betrayal of the worst kind, and the law not only allows it, it creates the opportunity.
I don't know how that makes any sense on a state-by-state level that you would allow that to happen. Which goes back to one of my earlier videos, one of my earlier points. I think that paternity test should be a requirement when a baby is born, if the father chooses.
This is what we know. Every bit of data we have tells us children need their fathers. The law, its application, and society at large disfavor fathers. The law is improving, but the statistics are not. So, what can you do? We are the change makers, all of us. If you're a father, make the effort. Do everything you can to be in your children's daily lives. If you're a mother, encourage and facilitate the relationship between your children and their father instead of trying to interfere or control it. If you're a child, spend time with your dad. Ask him to do something. Seek his advice and guidance.
You know, my pops in raising me, one thing that I can always think back in the way that he dealt with being a single father in the relationship that I had with my mother is that he never interfered. If I ever had a gripe that I would come back and talked to him about regarding something that happened between me and her, he always came in with an open mind. He never pointed fingers. And he said at the end of it, but that's your mother. You only get one of them. And I commend him, even though he was drugged through a lot of ish during that time. And trust me, I was there. I was cognizant, so I can see. As I look back on it, I commend him for not getting involved, not pointing a finger, not saying that your mother is a bad person in bad times or what have you. And I think that that is important. You know, although I wasn't able to grow up in a two-parent household, I think that I had a really fair shot in connecting and bonding with both parents because of the way that they've handled their relationship outside of me. I got buddies in my life right now who got a girl pregnant, and that girl uses the child as leverage, uses the child as a way to control that man. And I think that it's wrong. I think that it causes a degree of spitefulness. And the thing is that, you know, that child doesn't understand those things until they come into an age where they can be cognizant enough to understand the dynamic and understand the logic behind some of that. I think those that are using their hurt and their child as leverage, I think really need to take a firm look at themselves in the mirror to determine what is it within inside of themselves that is causing them to be so vile to the other person, and seek help in understanding the accountability within that.
If you work in the legal field, help us continue to progress, change the laws, and ensure that they're enforced to protect fathers and their children. The importance of this pursuit cannot be overstated. The fate of nearly half of America's children depends on it.
Incredible discussion. Incredible discussion. And listen, let me try to attack this objectively, balanced, if you will. And here's the thing. This goes for those that started off being a father, whether or not you planned on it or whether you did not plan on it. And this is just my experience for some dude who doesn't have kids, but understands the importance of me having a father in my life and determining who I am as a man. Think about those numbers, internalize the numbers that she was going over, because they are that much more at risk for defeat in this society if you are not able to be there, or if you choose not to be there. Whew, this is deep stuff right here. You know, I appreciate you guys sending this to me. This one brought back a ton of memories. This one brought back a ton of memories from my childhood. You know what I'm saying? But it's good to always rehash those things in order to better inform your future. All right? Mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. This one was heavy. This one was heavy. I'm going to leave a link to the entire video down in the description box down below. Feel free to go check that out. Until next time, YouTube. Peace.